Okay, so we've entered Season 5 of the Big and Tall Show podcast, and we're glad you're here with us. Your hosts, Mark, who is big, and Tom, who is tall, are ready to share some things with you for the week in hopes that you can use the information in your own life to live big and tall in your faith. Here are Tom Runyon and Mark Hastings.
All right, Tom, we are back with the Big and Tall Show, and we welcome everyone in to another episode of our season number 5, and we hope everybody's having a good week. I bet it's raining wherever you are. Tom, we try not to discuss weather too much, but here's the thing. It rains every day. It rains every single day.
We live in a tropical rainforest.
And when it's not raining, it's 150 degrees, and so, just it's miserable.
People that live, and good morning, Mark, and thank you to our listeners for joining us for another episode. People that don't live in the South don't understand what we're talking about. And of course, I know Florida's a whole different ball game, and South Alabama is a whole different ball game. But people that live in Michigan, Montana, and that kind of stuff. Of course, they have horror stories about their winters, but they don't understand. Yeah, you're talking about it's raining every day, and I'm not going to complain about that because we've had some very, very dry summers where it's just been miserable. You can't even drive around, drive up the driveway without your car getting covered in dust every day. And but yeah, it is either just hot and miserable. Of course, this week's not bad. It's highs in the 80s, but yeah, it's raining every day. And that's actually the one thing I was going to talk about today is our garden. And I think officially that's not weather, so I think we're allowed to talk about that. But
I think it's good.
I think we are like a lot of people. The idea of having a garden is great. You have that mindset of we'll grow our own vegetables that we'll get to eat all summer long. And for the most part, that is kind of happening. But, the other side of being a gardener is not glorious. It's not glamorous. But Mark, when we planted our garden, of course, we've just got, I think we have 4 tomato plants, 3 squash plants, 3 jalapeno peppers, and then the okra. Let me just talk to you about okra. Ooh. We've discussed this on our podcast before when we were doing our restaurant reviews and how important fried okra is to us at restaurants. So we have planted okra in the past. And so for this year, Mark, I went into the drawer where I knew the okra seeds were. And I looked at the bag of okra seeds. It had been opened from a year ago. And this bag was probably easily 2 or 3 years old anyway. And so in my finite, small, tiny little brain, I was like, man, I hope these are any good. And so instead of trusting that they're good, I thought, well, if they're not good, I just need to plant them all, and hopefully at least a couple of them will come up. So I made me 2 little trenches, and Mark, I put every seed we had in that ground. And Mark, every single one of them come up. So I think this is not an exaggeration. We have easily 100 okra plants in 2 rows. Oh, wow. In 2 rows. It looks like we're trying to grow a crop of marijuana or something. I mean, it is. It's
thick.
It is amazing. Yes, it's thick. So if you would like some okra, I'm your guy. So we have so much because, like you said, it rains every day. So we have squash, that just tremendous amount of squash, and peppers, same thing. But okra's on a whole different level, and it's been great. Like, don't get me wrong, it's been great. Tomatoes, we are still fighting the battle of how in the world do people grow good tomatoes.
I don't know.
It's a gift, and we don't have it, and I don't know what to do. So we have some tomatoes, and they're just, these are beefsteak. They're supposed to be huge slicing tomatoes for your sandwiches, and they're just not doing what they're supposed to do. But anyway, we'll
about you're talking about gardens. About February, March every year, I get excited. I start planning out my garden, and then by this time of the year, I'm done with it. It's over, and I'm tired of going out there, trying to keep the weeds out. But this year, we had goat issues, as you remember. We had baby goats. They were getting out. They were running everywhere. And I said, there's no way we can plant a garden because they'll eat it immediately.
Yes.
So we bought that. Well, not bought, but we have these tubs, black tubs, and we got these, and I don't know, 3 or 4 of them, and we filled them up with dirt, and we planted 2 or 3 tomato plants, maybe to each one. And we have tomato plants. It looks like what is that, Jack and the Beanstalk? I mean, they're like 8 feet tall.
Are they producing?
But they have nothing on them. No, they have nothing on them. I mean, they're humongous, but they don't have any flowers. They don't have any tomatoes. We're just growing a big stalk.
Oh, that's
so.
Yeah. Well, are you sure that's what you planted?
I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know.
Who
knows?
People that are master gardeners, and that is a real thing that I've learned. But people that are master gardeners, they have, I guess it's like anything else. If you want to be good at something, you got to spend some time in it. You got to learn, and those people are they're amazing. And but anyway, so we're I tell you one thing.
Well,
there's a huge
go ahead.
there's a huge thing right now going on in our world about raised gardens, raised beds, and the older I get, the farther away the ground gets from me. I feel like bending down for squash and peppers and stuff. So raised beds are starting to look very appealing to me for next year, and so we may give that a shot. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, bending down. I mean, who wants to do that anymore?
Right. I'm 50. Mark.
I mean,
I'm 50, and bending over.
I can't imagine. Well, I'm getting close, and I can't imagine when I'm 75. I'll just start kicking things out of my way because I'm not bending over and picking them up. I guarantee you. Or you can get one of those grabbers.
Yes.
I love the grabbers.
Yes.
Yeah. You can get the grab. Hey, one thing I wanted to talk about, and this was in my sermon last Sunday, but it goes along with the garden talk here, and that is sunflowers. My dad planted sunflowers for several years for my mother. She wanted them, and we took a bunch of pictures of the kids growing up almost every year out, in the sunflower field.
Right.
And he could grow a sunflower. I mean, we had some big sunflowers. So the last couple of years, I've sort of taken over, trying to plant sunflowers. This year we didn't. We tried a zinnia flower. It didn't work out.
All right.
Too much rain. It just didn't work. But I have grown some good sunflowers. But the sunflower, and I guess everybody has heard of this or knows this, but it's very interesting. When it's in its growing stage, it will track the sun from east to west.
Yeah.
And now when it gets mature, it doesn't track hardly as much, but when it's young and growing, it will turn all the way with the sun from the east to the west every single day, and then it resets, I guess, at night. But I started a series of sermons on Sunday morning talking about being changed into the image of the Son of God. And I'm using 2 Corinthians 3 and verse 18, where it says, "But we all with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory." And so I thought about this sunflower and how it is, focusing on the sun.
Right.
And what does it look like? It looks like the sun.
It does.
I mean, it's what a sunflower looks
Transformed.
like. Transformed. The sun.
Yes.
That's right. And so we are going to reflect. We are going to look like what we focus on all day long. And I think it's very interesting to think about, Tom, that we can be transformed, and that's what this process, this Christian life is about. God is transforming us into the image of His Son, to look like His Son. And that's sort of amazing to think about, really.
It is that whole sanctification process, that process of becoming as Christ-like as we possibly can. That it is fascinating. It absolutely is, and I love your analogy. That's really good. It's not just a hat rack,
Well,
is it,
and
Mark?
no, that's right. That's true. And, my little catchphrase or key phrase that I'm going to be saying over the next several weeks is we all believe in Christ, no doubt about it, but are we becoming like Christ? Right. And that's in our lives and where most people are, I guess, that are in our listening audience. That's the question, Tom. I mean, I think most of us believe, if not all of us, we believe in Jesus, but the greater question is, are we becoming like him? And that's what we're trying to do in our lives. We be changed into his image, and I think that plays, right into what we're talking about this season. Between Sundays, Tom, is our theme. And, last week, our last episode, we talked about what happens between Sundays. Christianity is a lifestyle. It's not a weekly appointment. It is something that we practice, that we do every single day.
Yeah, we are hopefully going to focus on that this entire season, and you're exactly right. That is the end goal, is being Christ-like, and it is being who we are. I think I said that many times last week. It's who we are. It should not be, what we are on a Sunday, maybe even a Wednesday, but it's who we are, and who am I? Who are you? We're dads, and that kind of leads us into to this week. Our episode is our faith here at home. And so, I think you said it before we even began recording, the people that know us best are the people we live with. Our family, they know us best. And, if the home is the very first place that we are to be Christians, and our faith is to be an active, living faith, then how do we do that? And of course, that's our episode today, is how do we live out our faith at home, and how is our faith between Sundays at home? How is that? How are we truly Christians at home?
Tom, I am amazed at my family, because they know me so well, yet they still love me.
They still like you, don't
like
they?
Me.
Yeah.
And I'm not run them off, But we talk about where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, in our Christian walk. If we could look into, be a fly on the wall in people's homes, that claim to be Christians, not all of them, some of them, I think we would be amazed that the way they talk, the way they treat each other, what they're looking at, what they spend their time on. In the home is really, that's who we are. That's where we let our guard down. That's where we, we say things that's on our mind. And if we want to be true Christians, it starts, Tom, in the home and with our family.
Mark, also, you and I both being fathers, my number one goal, I would say, in this life, other than myself getting to heaven, being a faithful follower of Jesus, is making sure that my wife, and especially the two of us together, focusing our efforts on making sure our daughter is a faithful Christian and spends eternity in heaven. And like you said, that this is who we are at home. And if our children see us living dual lives, the church house life that everyone sees on Sundays and Wednesdays, and then this living at home, then what are they going to see? They're going to see that the authentic Christian life doesn't exist, and that it's not important. And is it always going to be a struggle in in our lifetimes, is it always going to be a struggle of making sure that our children are faithful, making sure that, and I'm speaking of the church. I'm not just speaking of the Runyon family here in Tennessee. I'm talking about the church as a whole. Are our children faithful? Is the church continuing on after this generation ends and the next generation ends? Is the church still going to be strong? And that shouldn't depend on the preacher. It shouldn't depend on the elders. It should depend on every single family at home in teaching our children to be Christians. And Mark, we're not just spewing things out that we think. These are all, of course, scriptural. And I do want to start in the Old Testament. And for our listeners who may not be New Testament Christians and may not understand the distinction between the Old Testament and the New Testament, we are not under the old law. The things that are written before are written for our learning, so we can learn from things in the Old Testament. However, we're not bound when we look at physical temple worship. We're not bound to those laws, but the concepts that we see, especially the emphasis that God places on the home and on obedience,
we can still learn.
We can still learn. So in Deuteronomy chapter 6, I'm going to begin in verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. What does that mean? That means you need to remember them. You need to keep them in mind. They need to be part of who you are. So verse 7 then, you shall teach them diligently to your children. Talking about the words which God commands you. Look at the verse 4. You shall teach those words diligently to your children. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house, on your gates. We are seeing this emphasis on how important it is in our home that our children, that our entire family are continually acknowledging the commandments of God, continually remembering them, continually. You see all these reminders of this should be what you talk about. It should be on your doorpost. It should be at your gate. It should be on your hands. You need to be emphasizing God's word at home. That's the point.
And how we would say it, I guess, in our language, Tom, is you walk the walk.
That's right.
You don't just talk the talk. That's an old cliche or old saying, but it's true. When we go to worship every Sunday, as we said last week, everything looks great on the outside. The family looks like we're all happy, and we look like we're perfect Christians. And that's what we're trying to portray. But when we come home Sunday afternoon, when we come home Sunday night, and especially during the week between Sundays, what are our children seeing? What's our wife seeing?
Yeah.
I mean, would our family members, could they honestly say, if they took a lie detector test, could they honestly say, hey, Dad is, sometimes he gets upset, sometimes he gets mad, but what you see is what you get. Dad is he's a true Christian. He's a good guy.
Right.
Could they truly say that about us? And if not, maybe somebody's listening. They know, no, I'm not the person that people think I am at church, at home. You can change. You can change.
Yeah.
Just as I said earlier, being conformed, being changed into the image of Christ, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process. But if you let God, He will work on your heart, and He'll work on your character and work on your life. And we need to focus on that because it's so important in our marriage, in parenting. We set, Tom, and especially as dads, we set the spiritual tone for our home, and we need to make sure that we're doing it right.
Right. And there is so much responsibility on us as the parents, and there should be. When you look in Ephesians chapter 6, which when you start thinking about children and parents and parenting and the family at home, this is probably the passage most people immediately go to. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment, with promise that it may be well with you and you may live long on the earth. It's very convenient as a parent to stop right there. I can say, hey, look, kids, you're supposed to honor me. You're supposed to obey me. But no, look at verse 4. And this is where the emphasis should lie. And you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. Yeah. That's the emphasis. It's on us. Our children are going to obey us and follow our commands and honor us if we're being godly and we're trying to train them up in godly things as the Bible teaches. And so that emphasis once again is wholeheartedly, completely on us to be the ones that are to be setting the example of living Christian daily lives every single day. Between Sundays. Yeah,
and that's that. It's a hard thing to do. I remember a story that I told, an illustration of a man that a preacher that came and knocked on a door, and the wife of the house, she answered the door. The husband was not there, and he asked the question. He said, does Jesus live in your home? And she said, well, I don't know exactly what you mean, and she was just frantic. She didn't know how to answer. And anyway, he left and gave her a tract, and the husband came home, and the wife was telling him about this, and this man knocked on the door and said, does Jesus live in your home? And he said, why are you so upset? He said, why didn't you just go, get the church directory and show them, hey, we're church going people. Here's our picture in the church directory. We're church going people. He said, why didn't you just do that? And she said, well, because that's not what he asked. He asked, does Jesus live in your home? And she said, and I didn't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
You see, there's a big difference. The point is, there's a big difference in having our name on the church roll, having our picture in the church directory, and actually Jesus living in our lives and in our homes. And, it's real easy, Tom, to go to church on Sundays and on Wednesday nights. Some people don't think it is. That's about the easiest thing we can do. Just show up.
Right.
But when we really have to work at it is between Sundays, Monday through Saturday. And mainly, we're going to talk about other areas of life. We're going to talk about our, work life and recreation and entertainment and all these other things that we do, real life stuff. But to me, I guess the hardest place is in the home to act and live as a Christian.
Yeah, and it should be, once again, if it's who we are, it's who we are. You've said it. Be able to walk the walk, and so as we're getting short on time for this episode, I think that's the biggest encouragement. If we're maintaining our consistent theme here of standing big and tall in our faith, well, being faithful to God means every single day, and like you said, especially at home. And if our children are going to be faithful, and like I said, that's my biggest concern in this life is my daughter going to spend eternity in heaven? And if she doesn't see, of course, now she's, for all intents and purposes, she's out of the house already. She's a senior at Auburn. Yeah. And did she see during her formative years that, hey, being a Christian is important, and it's who my parents were at home, and it's who I need to be all the time. And so that's I think a great reminder for us, a great episode here of just who are you, and as the Bible expects, are we Christians every single day of the week? Are we Christians in our home? And we need to be.
And Tom, upcoming episodes, we're going to talk about more real life stuff. As I said, in the workplace and out and about. What do people see in us? And that's what this season is all about. As we're talking about between Sundays, how to live a faithful Christian life outside of the worship times. And so we appreciate everybody joining us today, and we hope that you have a good rest of the week. and go out there and as we've said for several seasons, Tom, ever since the beginning, go stand big and tall in your faith.
That's right. Y'all have a great week. Please subscribe and share it with others. We hope y'all have a great time.
This has been the Big and Tall Show podcast with your hosts, Mark Hastings and Tom Runyon. We hope you've enjoyed the show today. If you have, please share a link to the show with your friends and family. It's easy to do, and it is appreciated. So remember to stand big and tall in your faith this week and always. Thank you for listening.